be posted. The video will be on the toolkit, and then we also actually have a YouTube channel that we will be posting content on. So we've added a giving guide video that Kelly made, just giving you a little bit further instruction on the giving guide specifications, and orientation is up there. So we'll be sharing that YouTube link with you guys as well for our channel. So welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. We're so excited to have Rita from Puente sharing with us once again all her fabulous tips and tricks and insights to this event that she's been a part of for years now. And we're just really grateful, as Kelly was saying earlier, when we get our feedback surveys, this is the favorite presentation. So we're very grateful to be doing it again this year. And if anyone missed the training yesterday on peer-to-peer, I will be getting that recording as well, and I will be posting that in the toolkit. And you know, it's definitely some valuable content, so you can check it out on your own free time and share it with anyone within your organization. I think peer-to-peer is something you know, it may really benefit your organization and broaden your reach, so worth taking a look. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rita from Puente. Thanks, Rita.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me share here the screen and we can get started. Okay, this is working. Perfect. So I just want to start by saying and acknowledging that every year is different. Every year has a unique flavor, but also, at least for me, and I love to share what we do at Puente, but it's nerve-breaking nevertheless every single year. And we're always talking about what's going to be the goal that we're going to set up, and we're always trying to analyze the environment and what's going on and thinking whether we need to adjust. And so probably everybody last year, if you remember when I gave my presentation, I was like, this COVID thing, it may affect us. We didn't know then how big it was going to become. And I actually thought it was going to affect us negatively. And then, you know, something happened in the environment. And at least for Puente, what we saw in our data is that we lost a lot of small donors that probably struggled with the pandemic. And then the donors that had more capacity gave more than other years. And so that balance and help us reach our goal. But it is, you know, but definitely we were worried about what was going to happen. And so this year, as always, me and my team were always concerned about how things are going to go. So that's a normal feeling. And so if you're feeling a little bit of anxiety about it, it's all good and okay. And as long as we match it with the work, we should have good results. So what I like to share is things that we do. And I learn from you all and from other organizations also every year. I do flip the book and the guide, and I check like, oh, this is a great picture. Oh, we should do something like that. So this is something that has worked for us. And as I said, every year changes. And so take what it may work for you or explore what you think you have an opportunity to explore this year. But we all learn from everybody that participates in these campaigns. And I'm pretty good also about sharing the things that I feel that we don't do very well and that I hope one day we'll nail down. So let's start with the goal. Early on, the team and I get together and start thinking about what are we using this campaign for? And like I said one time, the work that we do, if you already work for a nonprofit or a school, a PTA, like the work that you do is already important. So this is an opportunity that we give to people that have resources to participate in your campaign, but try to have a clear goal. And we've gone back and forth. We don't keep it the same. Some years we have it very general about supporting Puente. And most years we're very specific that at least for Puente, this campaign supports our youth program. So we provide academic support, enrichment activities, and paid internships. And the paid internships are expensive. And so we try to focus this campaign on that. This year, for example, we're gonna be focusing on 3 things. We're gonna focus on the youth program, scholarships for college students, and support for the response that Puente is giving to the COVID campaign. So our mission is gonna be to try to be clear on those three things and set your amount goal. You may share like Puente that some of your donors still want to donate through checks. We encourage now more than ever the online tool because that gets you the prices, it gets you all the data in one place, but we still have people that wanna donate checks. And so set your goal for your total campaign. And if you need to set a goal for your online campaign, then like in our case, we have those two goals. And I'll show you in a second the gift chart that we built to know how are we gonna get there. So you kind of wanna have a strategy about it. And things are gonna come along the way. But if you have a plan to start, that's helpful. The other thing that I recommend is try to think who's your team. So some of our conversations are already who from the staff is going to be involved, who are we going to recruit as volunteers? And in fact, in some instances, people that have helped in the past, they are already reaching out to us to see how they can support. And then what is going to be the role of board members if you have board members? Your teams probably are pretty small. Our team is actually pretty small. But we do have board members that we ask them to do certain things. And then we have what we call the ambassadors, which is like just a group of volunteers that help us with phone calls, addressing letters, people that agree to share social media information on their own pages as well for us. And I felt that I added this part this year because I thought that Coastside Gives can be a really good opportunity to increase your donor base or to build it. So regardless of how you do this year, if this is your first time, if you then for the rest of the year continue to steward and to engage those donors that gave you during Coastside Gives, you may actually have gain for your organization or your group donors for the long term, that maybe they started with a $20 donation on Coastside Gives because they saw it for the first time, but then it's up to you. How do you continue engaging with them to keep them for the longer run? And of course, this is like the conversation of the team right now is how are we going to adapt to the pandemic? Last year, for example, we actually didn't have an annual event, and we actually didn't feel that we were prepared to have a virtual event, mostly because we were responding to the pandemic. So we couldn't really do both, but some organizations did. And there's really good examples about how to run virtual events. So this year, we're actually going to try to do that as well. And think about the financial impact of the pandemic, not only on your donors, but on your organization, because if you can build a message around it, how this has affected you and why you need more support than ever, include it on your guide or include it on your website. And as I mentioned, this is a simple version of the gift chart that we prepared. And in my team right now, I have myself and two other staff members. So there's a lot of back end work, but you can build this in a very simple way. So for example, if your goal is going to be to raise $25,000, then just try to think about how can you really get there? Do you potentially have 2 donors that can give 10,000, 3 donors that can give 6,000, 20 donors that can give, $1,000? I mean, 20 donors that can give $50, so you amount that to 1,000. This is just an example, but maybe most of your donors are going to be donors on the $100. And so just think, how many people do you need to get there? Try to use the previous year's database to reach out to those people that they already gave. They gave for a reason last year or 2 years ago. So try to reach out to them with a message this year. And it's very valid that you ask them to increase, because everything has become more expensive because the pandemic has impacted you in a certain way. You can ask them to give more than the year before. And you can say that on your letter or your postcard or your social media. If anybody at the end, because sometimes people ask me after the presentations, you can email me to get the actual Excel sheet for this gift chart, and I always send it to the people that ask for it. That's okay. I highly recommend to get a match. It really doesn't matter the size, but if you have a good donor that has been connected with the organization, that understands well the work that you do, leverage that donor to ask them if they would match donations and contributions from other people. We have found that for us, that resonates a lot with people. And in fact, one of the calls that I get, like I got emails, for example, as soon as Mavericks Foundation released that they were doing Coastside Gives, one person emailed me the same day to say, do you want my gift early, or are you going to have matching funds to give it later, right? So some people really get motivated knowing that their dollars are going to double or triple depending on what you can find. But talk to one of your donors, and if you've never done it, maybe that's a good conversation to have with one of them, someone that you trust. Tell them, we've never had a match and we want to try it this year. Would you want to support us with that? The other tip that I really encourage everyone to do is try to start your campaign. I mean, I've seen organizations that already started basically their campaign. I've got that they completed the profile and that they start sharing some emails with people. Start as early as possible. With my team, because I plan conservatively and I am worried about like the day off, we try to do all our work as early as possible. And my goal is that by April 30th, 80% of the campaign is done, that we have made phone calls, that people have given, or that I have secured gifts, even if they haven't come in. But that if the goal is gonna be $20,000, that I already have 80% of that somehow secure or promised or accounted for already. So March 8th, which is when people are gonna start giving, start telling your donors that they can give. Let me see. Let me move a little forward and then we can address some of the questions. So start early, and then our team, Alejandra, many of you know, and Dan, they do a really good training for everybody that is going to volunteer to do phone calls. And we have gotten a little bit more sophisticated, particularly because Dan in our team actually knows how to create these Excel sheets. But if we call someone, it marks that we called the person. And if they said that they're gonna donate, it goes green. And if they say that they're not gonna donate, it goes red. And I don't know how he does it, but he's just pretty good about that. And if someone is adding notes, it goes like, it color codes things. The trick there is to keep your information updated, because even once you get to the day off, you're still making calls and you don't want to call someone that already gave. It happens, but you want that to happen in very few cases. So if you have a list of people that you're gonna be calling, then make sure that you enter notes or update the information if you already called that person. We are also very respectful. Occasionally you'll have people that say like, I don't wanna be on your calling list, or please don't call, just email, things like that. Make a good note so that you can respect how the donor wants to give. I have donors that they don't want any mail, anything at all. They just want us to call them and remind them that it's time for Coastside Gives. And there's other people that they don't want any phone calls. They just get their letter or they see in social media and they give. And there's a lot of people that are gonna give multiple times. The other thing is that there's people that are gonna give multiple organizations, and that is really cool. So for example, my team, I think I supported Pie Ranch, but we also, we profile like, this year, because I give Pescador Education Foundation, Pie Ranch, like all the local organizations, we try to make noise for them because we're so isolated here on the South. And if we can cross support each other, it's a good thing. There's resources around. So I never feel like, well, if we post about someone, they may get the donation and we don't get it. Our area has so much resources, but also the work that we do is so important that people will give to different organizations. If you can organize partners, or we call it sometimes, depending on whatever Alejandra decides, but most of the time we call them ambassadors or our groups. We ask people to post their own campaign for Puente. So they can set the goal that they think they can set for the organization. And of course, we encourage them to go through the portal, but that is very helpful because then you have volunteers that they're so trusted among their groups that people are going to give because they know that person that is asking them, and they're putting a good message for your organization. I think particularly school organizations like PTAs have a really good way to use these because you have so many parents and so many parents on social media. So try to think creatively about that. And then this is a hard thing to do because it requires a lot of people, but if you have a group of volunteers, prepare the calls to ask for a contribution and then prepare calls to thank people for their contribution. There's a few people that during the campaign, I make sure that in real time, I acknowledge them, but that is really, really hard. But for the most part, we have a team of people who are really good or they feel comfortable making ask calls to do that. And then there's people that are more shy, but they love to make thank you calls. Ask your volunteers, ask your board, what do they feel more comfortable doing? And people really appreciate those thank you calls. That's the feedback that we get, that they, usually people just call them to give, but when they get a call just to say thank you for, for your contribution on Coastside Gives, and maybe like a result, like we reach our goal or something like that, it goes a long way, and you retain those donors for longer terms. And this is just an example of smaller fundraisers. This one, I think it's 2019 probably. And this is one that I created for Puente, right? It was my personal campaign for Puente, for Coastside Gives. And so you can do those kind of things, but you can see, other people create those fundraisers. And that is something that you can use. Just try to be very visual is my recommendation. You can never go wrong with kids on pictures. It's just really, it goes a long way. I would encourage you to think about how your pictures reflect equity, how your pictures reflect that what you're doing is important and genuine. Think also about diversity in those pictures. Try to think about action pictures, and this is probably not the best example, but they had like these super cute smiles in this one. But if you can use action photos, it's really good too. I used to like to make a lot of collages, and I learned from my former director, Carrie, about like try to focus on one picture, Rita. It really works well that way. I mean, on the website, you can put a lot of pictures, but it's good that we're pushed to choose one picture for the guiding book, for the giving guide, because it makes you think about what is going to be the image that you will use to people just like engage in your organization. These are tips about what volunteers can do to help you. We changed last year talking about pandemic. We, for our end of the year campaign, we always have handwritten our letters for donors. And because of the pandemic, we didn't want it to put a lot of hands on things. And we knew there could be a safe way to put letters, let them kind of be still for a couple of days and then mail them. So we actually ended up using print labels probably for a long time. We haven't done that for a very good chunk of our donors. And then we still did some handwriting for a specific number of them. But these are tasks that volunteer can actually do for you. Just start recruiting them earlier. And be very specific, give them training about how you want those letters to look, where do you want them to address the letters, like things that you may just take for granted on people are gonna know how to do this. Give them the lists very clean, very clear so that they can actually help you with that. Making calls, if you do training, making calls, it's going to be a good strategy for you, and everybody's gonna feel nervous. I even feel nervous calling donors. Like on my first 3 phone calls, I'm like with all these butterflies in my stomach, and then it just gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier as you go on. You can also use volunteers for the day of your event. And I know some organizations do and some organizations don't do events the day of. We really like to do one because that gives donors the opportunity to come to the organization, to interact with the staff. And we actually leverage a small matching amount for the given event. And in the past, what we've done is there's a family that they volunteered to make tacos for us. We buy all the ingredients, they provide their time. And then different families in the community bring salsas, and it just becomes like a little party outside of Puente here. And then people come, they make a gift. If we have some swag, we plan how to use the swag for the event. And otherwise they come and see, then have, conversation, and then they leave in, and it's a very flowing event. So we really don't expect people to stay there for like the 3 hours that we do the event. People come, mingle, and they go. And that's, that has worked because it is the space where our own participants give. We usually start around 3 o'clock, and so they come and pick up the kids from school, which is next door to us, and then they stop by. But the people that we serve, we know that they are also supporters of Puente, and we treat them like any other donor. We send them the postcards, we send them letters, we invite them to the event, and you want to have a lot of volunteers helping you that day. And then they can help you also to prepare your thank you letters. That, there's a lot of information out there about how soon you need to thank someone. The point is to thank them soon enough, in the way that they want it. So a lot of people really want something in writing because they use it later on for tax purposes. We have some people that don't want anything in writing. They just want a statement at the end of the year. So there's different ways to do it. And of course, when people donate through the portal, that's their actual receipt. But again, because what you want to do is to engage long-term with those donors, I don't care. I still send them the Puente letter. I know they're getting their online receipt from Coastside Gives, but I still send them the Puente letter. And I feel that helps just to create that long-term relationship with them. In terms of the outreach, my tips are, see how repetitive this is like start early, and then be constant. We tried something different last year, actually, because we sent less notifications. We felt that there was a lot going on with pandemic, and we want to be respectful of that. And you know what? We still reach our goal, posting less. And I was very surprised about that. So it's information that then we took and analyzed, and you'll make these decisions with your teams, but it's important to think about how often you're going to communicate. Don't apologize. What we do is important and is worth it. And especially during the pandemic, it has shown the value of nonprofits to support government initiatives and to keep our communities healthy in many different ways. I mean, I know organizations in Half Moon Bay that started giving PPE like before it was announced that people needed to be wearing masks, right? Like those are pretty worthy causes. So you don't have to start your message like, I'm sorry, I'm calling you, I hope I'm not bothering you. Like, you want people to know that what you're doing is so worthy that they have the opportunity to support your organization. I recommend to have print materials. All these, I know it is an investment, but I feel very positive to say that it pays off. The giving guy, putting your organization there, it pays off. And we prepare a postcard that we send by mail. We are in a smaller space too, so we actually can send a postcard to every postal patron that is in our community. Probably North Half Moon Bay, that's a little bit more expensive. And think about what collateral materials you can use. I love, that intersection on Kelly and Highway 1 with all those banners. Like there's in Half Moon Bay, especially, there's a lot of places for visuals. We're a little bit more constrained on the south for that, but still think about what are the places where you can post those materials. And for your print materials, if you're gonna write a letter, try to ask for an amount for donors that they need that from you, that they need specific asks from you. And I always say this became a habit now. I like to write personal notes. Sometimes it's just a simple thank you, but sometimes you start building this relationship with donors that you want to give them updates on things. And I think that goes really a long way with people. If especially businesses, like if they open a place, or people that have been supported you for a long time, just a little note, it helps a lot. If you're gonna organize an event, try to send a save the date early on so that people know that that giving event is happening. Of course, send save the dates for the day of Coastside Gives. But also think about the schedule of your team. Something that I asked the Puente team is, I have a very small team for fundraising, but then we engage the rest of the team members the day of. And so I asked them to, clear programs, clean their schedule, and Alejandra and Dan help organize, calling times for them so that everybody gets engaged into this campaign. I more than ever recommend bilingual materials or in the language that you feel you need them to reach out to your potential donors. We use the word Puenteton among our Spanish speakers for this particular campaign, but it is pretty good. I mean, that now Mavericks is translating documents since about a couple of years ago. That is a statement. It goes beyond the fundraising part of it. It's about acknowledging that our community is a diverse community and that everybody has the opportunity to support worthy causes. So this is an example of ours. And there's a lot of things that are probably wrong with this postcard that we've made. It's pretty worthy. And every year we try to simplify it. But we try to always use on either the front or the back, something that is visual. And because our program has been focusing on internships for youth, we try to select pictures that reflect the youth in the internships that they are during the summer. And in our case, it's also worthy because we try to make all our materials bilingual from the get-go, and so that we don't have to, decide who gets it in English and who gets it in Spanish, because this postcard in particular goes just to everyone. If you can work out ahead of time with the post office, you can get less expensive ways to send these postcards out to more people as well. And so I feel that this is the biggest part about Coastside Give, is how do you let people know that this is happening? And Mavericks, they do a very good job amplifying the message for all of us. That's why I think that people should sign up for Coastside Gives, because a lot of the outreach is done for us through the organization that the foundation does. But then it is up to us to figure out how we get it to other people, because even though it's Coastside Gives, a lot of people from over the hill support this campaign. And so we use different groups. So for example, Puente gets supported by some of the colleges, groups, faith-based organizations. There's a bike club that's a ride every year around the area. There's giving circles. There's a knitting group that support us. And so to all those groups, we have a person that is our contact. We send them the information and we ask them to kindly please share it with their entire group. So imagine, like, if a bike club, we just send it to our contact and then they send it to their 300, 400, 500 members of the club. They just amplify the message that you have. And even if the contributions become like $20, $50, $10, like all that starts adding up for you to reach your goal. And because there's no, like, remember how this started? That first it was Silicon Valley Community Foundation organizing this. I don't hear about any other fundraiser this way these years except Coastside Gives. So people from over the hill, this is what they hear about. And so it's important that we get them to support the organizations on this area. And if you can, you do have actually the radio in Half Moon Bay and people listen to it. So try to get on that. Last year, Coastside Gives was also the campaign in different newspapers. Like all those things are actually pretty good. And I don't know, on other years, there's the New Leaf event. You know, the pandemic, most likely these kind of things are not going to happen. But if there's any opportunity organized by Mavericks, let's volunteer and show up. Like all this helps. Even, you know, when we did this in New Leaf, that, you know, it's not about your particular organization. All that helps at the end of the day, all of us as a larger group, right? And the services that we provide, I mean, Puente has a very specific set of services, but then our community also receives other services from the Pescador Education Foundation. So we are so interconnected that the more that we can support each other, we're really just moving our region forward together. That sounded super cheesy, but I really feel that it would just help each other. So we use MailChimp, but you can use any other ways to communicate in electronically with your donors. For those, unlike the letters, that I feel that I want to give a good explanation about why we're doing this campaign and why our goals are and why we want to support youth and all that. On the electronic communications, we try to be much shorter. People look at them, and if they're appealing, they'll read them. Otherwise, they move through them. I mean, I'm pretty sure that from all the emails, some people just delete, right? And so keep them short and engaging. Tell people why you need the resources that they can give to your organization, and try to find lines that tell them to give and that tell them to take the step that you want them to take. So if what you're looking for is for people to eventually volunteer with you, volunteer with us. But if you want people to give or double your contribution, action lines that will just make people click. And something that we all have, and I think it's just this human nature, is that we have all these stories about examples of the good work that has been happening in this region, whether it's students graduating from college, you know, families receiving immigration status, advocacy to bring vaccines to the coast. All those things, all those stories, try to tell them in really brief, like 2-3 sentences, so that people can relate to it. I remember one time we were doing a little gathering to fundraise money for scholarships. And the question we asked the people that attended it was like, what was their first job? Because we wanted them to relate to the youth. And for many of the youth in Pescadero, Puente is their first job ever. And it was really cool to hear like people that they had a paper route, or they washed dishes, or they were babysitters, and just it reminding them how important it was to have support to then thrive. And this is people that now they can support students that are going to go to college, right? And so those stories, if you humanize that, and it doesn't become just a campaign, I think that's going to resonate with your donors too. And this is really important, is if your organization does work year round, then speak about that. Don't speak just about the campaign. I mean, PTAs work all the time, right? I mean, there's many advocacy groups in the coast that their work is just year round. So try to give a sense in your messaging about, yeah, we're talking about this campaign, but this is the work that we do all this year, and this is why we need your support. And it has worked for us to update our donors on where are we on our campaign. And this is where Alejandra does all this part on preparing those chimps with, we are at 50%, we're at 60%, because we want them to know that we're getting closer. And then eventually, you know, when we reach our goal, we let them know that we reach our goal. And I think that encouraged some people that is like, oh, shoot, I haven't given. And then they're like, they're 90%, I want to help them cross that line. And then they give. For your calls, I do recommend have a script. Some people just are gonna feel more secure to pick up the phone and make those phone calls if you give them a script. We recommend starting those calls 2 weeks before Coastside Gives, so that they put in their calendar which they want to give. And our script is super simple and really not complicated. We start with a thank you for them to have support us in the past. We tell them that the campaign is happening again and that we're participating. And then we tell them clearly how they can give. You can mail a check, you can go to this link, we can email you the link, this is our PO box, just tell them all the different ways that they can give. And then the options for them to give. And then finish with a thank you. And if some of them, because it happens that they're like, just remind me the day of, or if you don't see my gift by this day, just call me again. Things like that. Or, I didn't receive your letter, but if you send me an email, I'll check the link. Like if they ask you to do something to complete their gift, then have a person following up with those requests. Otherwise, you're gonna lose that opportunity that the person seems interested in actually giving if you don't do your part that they're asking you to do. And for the big day, we continue calling. We actually have a big database now of donors. And again, the pandemic affected the number of people that gave, but it did not affect the money that was raised. And continue being active on your social media. The more noise that we can make the day of, there's people that the day of, maybe the first day they hear about Coastside Gives, they didn't see the guide, they didn't see all the newspapers. They're like, what's happening? All this social media going around Coastside Gives, and it's the first time, and that's what helped them give. If you have a giving event, do the outreach for it. And if you can, get a small match for the event itself. This is the part that I think once Mavericks let us know what's gonna be the prizes this year, sit down with your team and try to strategize on which prizes do you want to pursue and how are you going to get there. And it's, as much as it's like, so there's so much anxiety about it, it's also really exciting. And I think several groups, we've been at 11 o'clock, just looking at the charts, who's getting the most this or the most that. And you're really like, think outside the box. When we are in those last 2 hours, we're texting people, telling them to text their friends, and it's like, we cannot lose by 20 donations. And so it is really exciting. I know that part of it is kind of like a competition, but at the end of the day, you bring more donations. And what I like is that the system, personally, I feel it has become better and better every year, and more refined in a way that more organizations can get prizes. And I think I don't know, I always wish that when there's a football game or something, both teams won. So that's how I am. And so it makes me feel really good when everybody's getting a prize. Okay, it just feels good that everybody gets a piece of the pie. But some groups are really good at this. I've seen some PTAs, oh my gosh, I don't know how they do it, but they're really good about strategizing for prizes. So talk to your teams and try to figure out which ones are the best one for you. I am kind of big on dashboards because it helps me stay focused on the work that we need to do. And so this is a little bit of an example on the dashboard that we use. And so we try to be tracking the day of, the donations that we get, so that we know what's our goal, and just with formulas and stuff, like how much we have raised, how much do we still need to get, what's the percentage that we have, so that Ale has that information for her chimps. And then personally, I like to track what are we getting through checks, what are pledges, because some people just pledge, they say, yeah, I'll send you this amount of money, and you just track those pledges, and then they will come later. Some of them are through Facebook. Most of them really should be going through Coastside Gives. A few of them are cash, because our participants in particular, they may be underbanked, and so cash is what they contribute with. But I like to try to track it this way so that I know where I am. I bet that probably a lot of your dashboard is going to be the Coastside Gives dashboard, because that's where most of your campaign runs. But I think I know other organizations that do something similar to this, because you have different ways on getting contributions for Coastside Gives. What is really cool too is that we get to report this information at the end. So even if it didn't come through the portal, it came because of Coastside Gives. And so you get to report that, and we get to add that to the big goal of the entire campaign for the region. something happened here. There we go. And just after Coastside Gives, again, if you're thinking about these donors, not as your campaign donors, but as your longtime donors, then pay attention to your data, register their emails, their phone numbers, just make sure that you do actually steward them and continue engaging them, send out your thank yous letters, send your thank you posts. People like to know that your organization reached your goal, and find pictures that you can share with them, just to be grateful for their contributions, because I feel that even people with a lot of resources, they get to choose where to put those resources, and the fact that they have chosen you, it's a big deal, and you want them to continue doing that. There's, for people that help us, like volunteers and staff, we write a thank you note, more personalized. There's very little that at least we could do at Puente with our entire staff and our volunteers. And so you want to acknowledge those efforts from people. And yes, some people get paid and some people are volunteers, but everybody is dedicating their time to this. Finish your thank you calls, even if they have to be afterwards. And then celebrate your staff and your core team. This is a lot of work for many days, for many months. And so you want to acknowledge what you accomplished. And then the closest to this being over, the closest that you need to start debriefing, because then you're going to forget what you wish you've done better, what worked, what didn't, comments, feedback. So soon after this is over, just get together with your core team again and just debrief and take notes about what you want to do different for the next year. Or surprises, some things that work, like our surprise last year is like, okay, donors that have more capacity gave more. So how can we continue using that piece of information for our next campaign? And believe me, like I said at the beginning, I am nervous about the campaign. I'm always nervous whether we're gonna reach our goals. So all those feelings are normal. But if you put the work on it, you should have good results. Kate had a question about if we can talk a bit more about what volunteers can do for you. So I think, okay, all of those, question answer. What do you say in the phone calls? Question answer. All right, and it's really short and simple. And most of the calls that we do end up being voicemails that people do actually not pick up the phone, but several of them we actually end up talking with the donors, and some of the conversations go for a few minutes because they want to get an update, what's happening, what's what they're doing, and so make sure that your folks can do that. I will give the slides for sure, Michael, for them to post them on the toolkit.
A recording of this presentation will be on the toolkit too, so they can not only get the slides, but hear the information from you. And then through our chat, we also had someone ask about an in-person event. Last year, because the pandemic was fresh and everyone was in lockdown mode, we didn't do a New Leaf event. Instead, we did a donation drop-off location in front of Olifano Technologies. And I have a feeling that that's probably the plan that we will stick to this year, unless vaccinations roll out really quickly and things are drastically better. I think as of right now, we will plan on doing a donation drop-off. I'm not sure if we will be requesting other volunteers at this time for that event or not. We're always conscious of everyone's safety, and so trying to figure out what makes sense for this year. I think Rita was also speaking though a little bit about how in the past they have done their own events at Puente, and many other nonprofits choose to do things like that too. And it could be an event at your location. It could be at the post office the day of, getting excitement and getting neighbors involved. It could be all kinds of different things. And again, all of that is kind of dependent on where we are with the pandemic and what the safety standards are at the moment.
And there's this question about if we're planning to do an in-person event. We're planning to do a drive-through event, and we're scheduling in a particular time during the day. The experience for this drive-through actually came from the food distribution that we do because it's super clean. There's no exchange, match. People come through their cars. It's been a good system. So we're gonna try it for people to come and bring their donations in a drive-through style this year.
And we had fun with the drive-through donation drop-off at Alafano last year. I mean, people were honking and cheering, and it just kind of added the excitement of the day. The local radio station is also going to do a day of event where they'll be interviewing participating nonprofits as they did again last year. And so that helps to engage the community. And so we've got a couple tricks up our sleeves to try and get the community engaged even while we can't get together. Thank you so much for your presentation, Rita. It was awesome as usual. And I know I've heard it a couple years in a row, but every year I do learn a new little tip or trick from you. And I really appreciate you sharing all your secrets with all of us.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Definitely. Looks like we got a comment. So helpful every time. Yep. Okay.
All right. One of the things that I don't think has been mentioned is that we are going to do a materials pickup on April 1st at the Graphic Works in Montera. And then you can pick up your lawn signs, you can pick up extra giving guides. If you order t-shirts, those will be available. And so we'll be putting all that, it's on the toolkit in your calendar as well. But I know a couple people have asked about why we can't have lawn signs right now. One of the reasons is we just closed registration, so we need to design and order and make all of them. And you don't want to put too much out too soon. And so the event is in May. And so as Rita said, like definitely start your campaign and your outreach. But if we start putting a bunch of signs up now by May, people will gloss over them and not see them quite as much. And so we do a really big push that last April through May when prizes are out and there's a really big visual push throughout the community as well.
Yep.
Great.
Oh, I just had one last question. Where's the toolkit located? So the toolkit, when you go to coastsidegives.org, there's a menu option on the top and it says for nonprofits. And one of the options is toolkit. And there you will find logos that you can download for Coastside Gives to use for marketing materials, for Instagram stories. We have a link to the orientation video on that page. So definitely check it out. We also have a calendar on coastsidegives.org. So look around under, for participating organizations, there's a toolkit, there's a calendar on that website. So definitely check it out because we do continue to post resources there.
I also see a chat from Sandra about the giving guide content, and the deadline for that is Monday. So please, please, please make sure that you have fine-tuned your copy and get your photo correct and everything all ready to roll, because we will start be putting that together on Tuesday once everything closes on Monday. And I think that was our last chat. Thank you so much, Rita. You are amazing. Thank you everybody else for spending your morning with us. We appreciate you taking the time to learn how to make the best out of your Coastside Gives campaign.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Bye.